So hello everybody, ConvertWithMoss 19 is out, and if you have not heard about this tool, it's a totally free and open source multi-sample converter, and version 19 adds 11 new formats. So insane update. And here I already opened up the software and you see the look has changed a bit. We don't have the tabs anymore because the list just got too long. So we have now a proper list with all the entries and a search field. So it's pretty easy now to find the correct one. For example, if you want to look for MPC, you can simply type MPC and you find all the MPC formats which are supported. You can also search for the endings. For example, if you're not sure what it's called, let's search for NKI, so the contact format, and you will also find that pretty quickly. Same is here in the destination formats because also they grew quite a bit, and here you can do the same searching. For example, let's say Renoise is your choice as a destination, and then you can also find that pretty quickly. Then there is a neat little feature. If I run conversion or analysis process, you quite often want to go into this source folder, for example, to check if there is an error, what might be the issue in the file, if it's a text file, for example. And to go there quickly, you can simply right-click a row of text here, and if it contains a folder or here a file name, then this folder will be open. So you can right-click that one and can say open folder, and if you do so, you will end up in that folder. And yeah, at least for me, that's pretty helpful. I hope for some people as well. Then there is a neat little option in all the formats that require lookup of metadata. So here you can now always say category tag at name start declares the category. For example, if you have a naming scheme like Pat Solina, then Pat is detected as the category for this sound. This helps also if you, for example, want to assign specific categories to your sound. Simply name them like this, and then you will get assigned the matching category. Then there are also two extensions to the processing dialog. Don't forget that you need to enable them to apply any of these options. If you don't have enabled that, it will not work at all. So the idea is that you can make your settings and you can have them ready in case you need them. So here are two extensions. One is snap loops to zero crossings. For example, if a source material uses crossfades in loops to remove a click and the destination format does not support such a thing, this might be a workaround to make it snap at zero crossing so you won't get a click. Might still sound not too good, but at least you won't have no clicks. A second option, sometimes formats are not so clear about what is the octave setting, so it might be one octave higher or lower, or a sound might be totally off by some semitones. So here's now your chance to change that. And for example, you can say you want to have additional 12 semitones upwards, so a full octave as a correction value. And there are two extensions to the overall model I use in ConvertWithMoss. So the model that all the source formats are converted into and then is used to create the output format from them. We have two extensions. First one is for loops. So the option that a loop until release is detected is now supported. What does it mean? Looping loops a certain area in the samples, and for some of them there is a setting to play the data that is after the loop if the key is released. Otherwise, the default is that the loop is continued playing in the release phase. So if there is specific data, so I have a real release of a sample, that's pretty helpful that this option is now supported, and you see it's supported in Ableton Sampler, Ensoniq Samplers, EXS, and so on. So quite a bunch support that information now. Another quite common parameter is filter cutoff for keyboard tracking. So you can adjust the cutoff frequency in respect to the lower or higher keys, also a quite common parameter. And this is now supported in, a lot of formats. So each and every format which supports that is now also supported for that parameter. Yeah, and as I already mentioned, we have now 11 new formats in this update. So big thank you to the contributors. I did not all of them, only a bunch of them. So many thanks to all the contributors to that version. So let's dive into. First, we have Polyend tracker instrument file, which gives you loops, filters, and envelopes. And always remember, there is one file where you can read up all the dirty details. So if you go into the GitHub page of ConvertWithMoss, you will find this documentation folder, and in there is this supported features sample formats, ODS, which is an open format, pretty Excel-like, can be normally opened on each and every computer. And here it is. So here you have the entries for all the different supported formats. So for example, we were just talking about Polyend here, and for Polyend you can see it supports read and write. You see the file endings, if it also supports library and multis or not, and then the supported sample formats and so on. And it gives you all the details where metadata is coming from, are group supported, what are the sample parameters that are supported, what loop parameters, and envelope details, pitch envelope details, filters, and so on. So here you can read up all the details if you are curious which parameters will make it over into your destination format. I also need to mention, since these are code contributions, I do not own these hardware devices for testing. So also the testing was done only with round trips or with example files. So there might be issue. Please report back if you find issues with these formats, but at least reading works definitely. On to the next one, Renoise instrument, also highly requested, which comes as zip archive with the ending XRNI, is a simple XML file. So this should be pretty easy and should work. And it uses flag files, it supports ranges, tuning, loop, and even filters and so on. And as I said, check out this other documentation file for the details. Next one. The Syndrome Deluge is also very highly requested, and it's also an XML file, and it also provides a filter. It has some limitations. For example, it can only do one sample per key, which is a pretty heavy limitation. Nevertheless, it helps you bring over your samples into the device. Electron Tonverk, we already had that in the last version of ConvertWithMoss, but it turns out there is not only the L multi format, but there is also the TVPST format, so a preset. And as expected, presets support a bit more information. So there you also have filter data and envelope, so it helps you to do a bit more with that device. Then some more old school stuff, and pretty rare, I guess, the Roland MV-8000 series with the follow-up model 8800, and they are pretty similar to the old school MPCs, so they work pad-based with 6 pad banks, and also like the old MPCs, they provide 4 layers per pad, and also velocity ranges and crossfades in between. Staying with Roland, ZEN-Core is now pretty widely used in tons of different synthesizers and groove boxes from Roland, like the Jupiter X series and Juno X, the MC707 and the 101, and also the Phantom series, and much more devices, which you all can look up on the Roland page. And they all uses SVZ formats, which contains tones, and together with the user samples and the keyboard mapping, but not much parameters. Yeah, but nevertheless, it helps you get your multi-samples in such devices pretty easily now. If you need a bit more parameters, the 707 and 101, they also have a project format, and this is also supported now, and this gives you more data like filter and ever envelopes, but still has several limitations. Again, check that out in the documentation file. Then another obscure device, the Synclavier Regen, or Region, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's a follow-up on the original Synclavier, and it's basically a text file with key velocity ranges and gives you filter and envelope data as well. And if you are an owner of such a device, you can now bring in your samples into that as well. Yeah, and the good old Fairlight in version 3, so the formats of 1 and 2 are different. Also on my list to look into these, but so far the voice files of the CMI 3 are now supported. Read only. If you have use for writing, please tell me down in the comments. And it has, like all samplers at the time, they use such increasing ranges, so you only have a start range node and it reaches till the next one of the next layer. But nevertheless, also works fine, but no velocity layers, but looping and an amplitude envelope. And another pretty obscure format, the downloadable sound format, DLS, and it's quite regularly used in gaming as well as mobile phones, and maybe also gaming on mobile phones. And it supports key velocity ranges, envelopes, and yeah, it's from the MIDI Association, I should note that. So it's an open standard, pretty nice, and actually quite powerful, but I could not find any examples which use a filter. So if you have an example which uses a filter within DLS, please get in touch. So much for version 19, an insane update. We have 11 new formats, new user interface, and all these things. And stay tuned, there's more to come on the list. And until next time, make some funky music.